Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian Farmer at Tropic Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for what is today? Today is Wednesday, November 6th. Wow, it's been a day and no rest for the wary because I mean the moves, some of these moves after hours too with these earnings reports uh, are just unbelievable. Before I get to that risk disclaimer in front of you, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice for recommendations. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. Try to go through that as fast as possible. But yeah, I mean, look at some of these moves after hours. Look at App Lovin is up $29 after hours. Some of the we've seen this with what was it? Arista Labs and Palantir. Arista Labs, by the way, like I didn't even think that the numbers were that great. I thought that it was okay that they beat expectations, but it just shows like there's a lot of, and I'm going to use this term that you hear a lot, but it's the best way to describe it. There's a lot of animal spirits in some of these names because, like I said, like I thought that the numbers for Arista Labs, ALAB were good, but like I don't know for these names to blast off like this and AppLovin is up 29%. This is a name that I hold, not a big weight, just a very small weight in the TTG trend portfolio. But I've stayed with it, and I can't believe that this company just crossed $100. So this is ALAB. Sorry, I want AppLovin, APPP. Um, yeah, I mean, oh, they did have good. I mean, they're pretty good numbers. 761 versus 640. That's okay. I take it back. That's pretty good numbers. Net income 434. So they're really executing quite well. Not EPS 125 versus 92. I mean, excellent. I wish I would have played it long into earnings, for an earnings trade. I did not, but that's tremendous. Elf is up nicely. Zillow is up too. Qualcomm announced a big buyback program. And what else do we have? I know COHR reported earnings just hit the tape too. Melly's down 11%. I've owned the Argentina ETF for a while, so that ETF will probably be down a bit because that's about 20%. Klaviyo did not have great results. Their COHR is down 7%. And I think ARM was also down after hours too. So let me I could talk about the earnings trades for a while, but I want to get right to the price action today because it was pretty awesome out there. And look at what I mean. These are monster moves, up 5.8% for IWM. I mean, any of these indices, you would say that this was a monster day. But I mean, look at the micro caps. We're up 6.2%. And again, like the reason why I sometimes quote the micro caps is just to kind of give you a sense of that risk on versus risk off. And geez, that's really a lot of risk on there. 6.2%. Now, people said, like I heard people talking about like, oh, breadth really isn't that strong. The tick index wasn't like huge on the open. And I look at up volume versus down volume. None of those things were really extreme, but why do you think that is? Usually some people don't like to justify indicators or put reasoning behind it, but I think you kind of have to pay attention a little bit to what interest rates did today, right? Not everyone is going to be a winner when you've got that type of a move. I mean, look, down 2.7%. So overall, with a move like that in interest rates, I think this is phenomenal price action. But yes, look at how many names were down. The gold trade was down big. China was down big. Home builders were down 2%. So solar names were down 11%. So when you have really strong breadth, the majority of groups, it's much more. You don't see any. You maybe see one group in one or just a couple groups in red. You don't see this many groups in red. So in any event, I saw people having a tough time with that one earlier. I try to in my these end of day videos to kind of insert as much education as well as I like to kind of talk about how I traded things today too, because at the end of the day, I report my P&L, I report my P&L on Twitter every month. Somebody asked me this, they sent me an email. They're like, "Hey, I see your P&L for the year, but do you ever report it by the month?" I've been reporting, I think I hold the record in terms of reporting P&L on Twitter. And then you could just use my Twitter handle at CFromHertz and then put PNL and you'll see months and months and months of my results. So I do go through actual, real trading, real trading experiences, and I'll break that down for you a little bit because first of all, when you've got this many movers, and I was carrying a lot of risk into today. And I had talked about that in yesterday's video. It wasn't so much an election thing. It was more that we've entered a very strong seasonal period of the year, and November is the strongest month. Generally. Now, again, you have to think about probabilities as a trader. There's no certainties. There's never any 100%, but you can use some of these things to your advantage, and that's called a little bit of trading edge, right? And that's what helps a little bit, especially to own names into, otherwise some of these events, they're kind of scary, right? I mean, I don't want to say scary, but there's all kinds of headlines and everything else. Generally, these elections they they're more fluff than anything else, like in terms of, they try to get people scared about them, right? But they're really not. And you don't really see, at least as long as I've been doing this, sometimes there is some short-term volatility, but usually it straightens itself out. In this sense, we didn't really get short-term volatility. We got a lot of whippy markets leading into the election, which also told me a little bit that these whippy markets where we saw the first hour was strong and then the rest of the day was weak, right? I figured over time that's going to straighten itself out. And it certainly did that today. So, where does that leave us? Again, I think that you kind of have to pick and choose your trades and what you thought was going to be a good trade. And like, so for example, like here's one trade that well, this is one that I think was very strong, but this was a trade that I went over yesterday in pre-market, and you can catch me pre-market tomorrow too, on pre-market prep. With Joel Connon and Dennis Dick. We'll start tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. So you can find that link on Google. And again, it's called pre-market prep. I think if you just put that in the search, you'll find it. But this was one trade that I went over yesterday, and they specifically asked me, I got into KKR yesterday when I saw the Apollo results. Right? These some of these companies are a little bit similar, right? This is Apollo Management. This is a private equity company. And I saw these results, and I didn't want to chase it up seven per over. I think at that point it was up over 8%. And I went into KKR as well because this is a this is a name that I thought had really good earnings. And why wouldn't I want to buy a really good, what I think is a high quality company on a pullback after its earnings? That's exactly what I did. Now, again, this is a little bit lucky. I didn't know that these games were going to do this, up 9%. And that's the same thing with Morgan Stanley. I've been waiting to get into Morgan Stanley. Just so happened that maybe it's a coincidence that it hit the 20-day moving average and bounced nicely. Again, this is my favorite financial name that I saw coming out of earnings, right? And that's the whole key, I think, is to monitor these names, these strong names, after earnings, and then try to get a good entry spot. And again, this is up 11%. This is Morgan Stanley. It's not an AI company. It's not a high growth company. It's something that I thought I can kind of position in. JP Morgan also had a huge day today too. And JP Morgan kind of gave a little bit of a lean down. And then, I mean, look at this one was up 11.5%. The crypto stuff, again, like I'm going to try to keep this video short because I actually want to get outside and exercise a little bit before it gets dark out. But selfishly, sorry. But look at the move, nice little check back that we talked about to the top of the value area. I got long on that check back. And it just looked like it had the chance to kind of do something really nice here. And I like that it finally got out of this channel. I didn't catch it right off the bat, and I kind of just waited and said, hey, here's my entry point. Now, again, I owned IBIT in the TTG trend portfolio, so I caught all the move there. Right. And that's how I try to position, right? I've got a portfolio well over 40 names where I try to hold the best areas where I think of the market, some of the best names in each sector. It's kind of a little bit more of a diversified approach. And that's been working because once the market gets going, they usually outperform. All right. So that's a couple things that I thought were really interesting today. The industrials. Um, had a big day. So again, this kind of follows the playbook a little bit of the last time that Trump uh won the election back in 2016, right? And we also covered these trades speaking of pre-market prep, we covered what we thought would be, trades for both Harris and for Trump. Again, the way that I framed it yesterday is that you have, as a trader, you have to run a scenario analysis. You can't be biased, right? Or you, at least you try not to be biased, and you have to understand like what's going to work in different environments. So we went through that plan yesterday about what would do well, and industrials made it out to new highs. Also, this is an ETF that I own. I call it the nuts and bolts ETF. This was up almost 8% today. Look at the volume today. And the nuts and bolts ETF. It's actually called the American Industrial Renaissance ETF. I did gave it my own nickname to it because I like that better. But some really impressive price action. I'm upset I don't own this one. This is Parker Hannifin, which had really good earnings. Look at this thing break out, right? Another one, Emerson, very, very strong, right? And then of course you've got all kinds of growth names that moved up too. A Lab, which has been really nice, made a new high, which I just talked about that one. Palantir also, amazing, amazing move in this one. Another one that's in the TTG trend portfolio. Very, very impressive. What else was I going to cover next? Even like Nvidia, right? And I even thought I was long the cues into today, and you know, I had put that on right when I talked about the bullish 80% rule yesterday. I thought we might see a little bit of rotation out of tech, and I sold this in the beginning of the day, but still made really good money on it. This was my price target, was the top of value. So these are out to new highs. What I would think about doing, and we do have a Fed meeting tomorrow. I think for the Fed meeting, I think that I would expect Powell to be somewhat hawkish, right? Now they have it pretty much priced in that they're going to cut interest rates again tomorrow. There's just about 100% chance, and the Fed they telegraph this stuff, when they're going to cut interest rates. They don't want to shock the market, right? So they're most likely going to cut interest rates by 25 basis points tomorrow, and then I would assume they're going to pause. Right. We just got an ISM services number that was super hot the other day. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's a little bit more dovish. And I think the market should be able to handle that. I really do. Um, but here was the data the other day. And again, my view has been, why are they still cutting interest rates? Because they over tightened. That's why. And you could look at the 2-year yields to see that as well. But where this was the ISM manufacturing that was weak, which again, we're not we're more of a services economy. Whereas the right, that was ISM. Here's the ISM services. It came in 56 the other day, right? That was just yesterday. So in any event, here's my watch list for the week. Very, very strong. The CLS has been great. Upstart was a trade that I think I started yesterday. This had nice follow through after this crossing back above the 50-day moving average. This is going to have earnings, so that's going to be an interesting report. I probably won't hold much of that trade into earnings. And so that's I mean, just an amazing week in terms of this. Uh, a firm which is in the TTG trend portfolio, ServiceNow, is out to fresh highs. I believe Rocket Labs did very good. Right. And here's my open positions. Like I'm not going to be in many of these for long. And they're kind of somewhat mature. I'll be taking off FLR into earnings. That name is done. I mean, I'm up over 12% in that one. So again, I don't mind. Usually I don't show open positions because it's not fair to members, but I don't think anybody's going to really get upset. I did the only trade that I added today. I was a seller. Like I was really positioned the right way for this, and I was a seller into this gap up and some of the strength that we saw today. But I did add Amazon, right? We know Bezos and his family is still selling this, but I'm not going to argue with a really strong earnings report and a breakout. right? And you know, uh, and you could see I drew a dotted line here for the breakout. Let's see if this thing wants to push to new high, to do something great. It has been consolidating for a number of months, so hey, I'm long. And we'll see, and I'll be long versus that trend line, and the trend line of the previous highs, and we'll manage with a trailing stop. So that's it for today, guys. I mean, really, really nice trading day. It really helps, I think, because I haven't found that the trading environment has been particularly easy over the last week or so. So, this is pretty rewarding today. Guys, have a great night. I hope it was rewarding for you as well. And I'll see you back, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning for pre-market prep.